Hi everyone, and welcome to the second trimester vlog. I am really excited to share my current thoughts on everything that I've been feeling. I'm currently 16 weeks, so that's 4 months. I know I'm gonna go up until my 6-month count to this trimester, so I might have a couple vlogs for the second trimester, but so much has happened in just the last 2 weeks since I completed my first trimester that I just had to vlog basically. So today I have a pretty jam-packed schedule. I'm gonna go have some breakfast. I am gonna go get my nails done, and then I'm gonna have my eyebrows threaded, and then I'm gonna go ahead and come back home and do some cleaning because we have family over later. So first and foremost, why am I recording a vlog so early in my second trimester? Well, the reason for that is because I wanted to talk about preeclampsia and my journey with that. So I had my appointment about 2 weeks ago, and thankfully everything in my labs came out good. My blood pressure for the first time ever in my entire life came out a little bit high, borderline, not completely over the mark, but borderline. And I had a conversation with my doctor about being put on aspirin because I was at risk for being a patient who could suffer from preeclampsia. So, I started doing research about what preeclampsia was and what were the risks and how this could affect me and obviously baby girl. So anytime a doctor says, this could, essentially kill you or your baby, your sirens go up inside, you immediately pay attention. I thank God that I wasn't worried. I wasn't anxious about hearing the news, but I had a lot of questions. And one of my questions to my doctor was, why am I being recommended to be put on this medication to prevent this condition if there's nothing on my labs that is really indicating that I have this condition? And so I was informed that the reason why I was at risk was, one, this is my first pregnancy, even though obviously it isn't, but it's my first, so far it's been the longest pregnancy. And then the second reason is because I'm overweight. And I guess, if you're overweight, you are at higher risk of developing preeclampsia. And so I wrestled with that, because again, I reached out to close friends and family, and I had, people close to me that were like, that's not right. It's not right for your doctor to be putting you or pressuring you to be on this medication if there's nothing in your labs that is indicating that you're at risk. Then on the other side, I had family members who were saying, but your doctor is a professional, and if your doctor is saying that you are at risk, then you are at risk, and why wouldn't you do anything or everything in your power to prevent something harming you or the baby? So I started researching, because essentially the issue with preeclampsia in layman's terms is that there is an issue with the placenta. And so because this condition causes issues with the placenta, essentially this could result in having, obviously your baby dying, and it could also affect you. And a lot of the symptoms are, high blood pressure, sometimes excessive swelling, sometimes very severe headaches and stuff like that. And so there were these risk factors. And so, I went onto a bracket of research of, what if I could just, lower my blood pressure in a healthy way, and I had people close to me that were recommending that option. Like, you don't need to be on aspirin every single day. you can go ahead and just, change your diet and go for a kind of, regimen that, includes foods that is going to lower your blood pressure, or keep it rather at a healthy level, and, exercise and don't gain excessive weight and blah, blah, blah. And so, I really thought about that, and I was like, okay, that sounds like a good option. And then I had, again, on the flip side, I had individuals who were like, but, what if you do develop it over time? And that was one of the things that my doctor was saying, that, because at first I said, what if I, choose to go ahead and do, the diet regimen first, and then I go ahead and basically, I go ahead and then I asked my doctor, and I said, okay, what if I go ahead and do the diet and I don't gain excessive weight, and I, try the aspirin later, So my doctor basically recommended, that's not really a good option, because we want, not only the baby to acclimate to the medication, and it not be a shock to her, but also, it's better when you start the medication as early as 12 weeks. So, there was just so much wrestling in my heart, because again, on one end, there's this like narrative in my head of like, don't trust everything that your doctor says. And I know, again, please understand, this is my journey. This is my venting session. This is my, what is it called? Like my diary, my pregnancy diaries, right? I am not here to give medical advice. I am not here to say, oh, because I did this, you have to do this. Absolutely not. This is my journey, and this is what I'm currently navigating through. But I do believe currently that, a lot of the times doctors and, the medical industry, especially the pharmaceutical industry, have an agenda. Here in the United States, we are definitely more eager to put patients on medications that are going to be long-term for them, and treatment and prevention and, really cure options are usually kind of put in the back burner. And we tend to just say, go on this medication. And being on very high doses of medication, obviously it's not good for your liver, it's not good for the rest of your body. And then you eventually, get other underlying factors added to your situation because of, this excessive medication. And in different parts of the world, like, Mexico or even Europe, there isn't such a big multi-million-dollar profit industry where, they're trying to sell you, medication. One of the things that I remember when I went to Europe was that, one, you're never going to see a pharmaceutical industry having a commercial, and selling you a medication. You definitely don't have the same kind of industry where you have certain doctors, back certain medications because they're contracted and stuff like that. So very, very different world. So I do personally believe in that. I do believe that sometimes, our health professionals might have an ulterior motive. I also think we live in a society where it's really hard to make, your own decision, because you have, professionals that are like, you have to do this, you have to vaccinate your kids. You're going to have to do this and that. And for the record, I'm not trying to make a play of like, oh, I'm not going to vaccinate my kids or anything like that. I'm just saying that, like, if that is what that parent wants to do because they feel like that's best for their kid, then they should be allowed to do that without having a provider, guilting them through the process. And for me personally, I do think that I got a little bit of that with my provider. It was more of like, I'm learning. I'm not fully well-versed in this, topic. So I need you to understand that I have questions, and I might even have doubts about the treatment that you are recommending me. And I had the hint of like, her being like, well, I just, want to let you know that there are some providers that require their OB patients to be on aspirin. And it was subtly said, but it was also said kind of like a threat of like, yes, there are OB providers out there that are like, okay, fine, you don't want to take the recommendation that I want to give you, then I'm not going to treat you. And obviously stuff like that is like, I think, unfair, and I don't think that should happen, because you obviously have cases where people have their own, like prerogative for why they do what they do. And I know that, the OB providers are like, why am I going to see a patient and try to, be there for their whole prenatal care if they don't want to go ahead and, listen to what I'm trying to say to them. And not only like they're not trying to listen, but like if in the end what I am recommending them ends up harming, or rather I am unable to prevent them being in harm's way because they're just so stubborn, like, yes, I can understand how that can be frustrating. But at the same time, like, to threaten and to be like, well, some providers, do, essentially require for their patients to be on aspirin. So I definitely thought that was something that was like, whoa, like, okay. So she's like, why don't you think about it for a week, go ahead, do your research, blah, blah, blah. And then, we can revisit this conversation. And I was like, okay. So I went ahead, I did my research. I definitely talked to close, family that I trusted, their referral of their own, experience. And that what was so hard for me, because the closest people to me had two very different opinions. I had, one, individual that was like, no, like, just change your diet, just, go ahead and do the exercise. This is what worked for me for both of my pregnancies. My children are fine. I wasn't on aspirin. I avoided being on that medication the whole time. And then, the other side was like, no, like, you need to do everything that is in your power to protect you and your baby. It's the easiest thing you can do. Yes, you can still, make your dietary restrictions and stuff like that. But ultimately, like, why wouldn't you do everything in your power to prevent it? So I was so torn, and it was really hard because, I just felt like, Lord, what's the right answer? What do I do? If I go in this direction, how am I going to know for certain that this is going to work? Because the thing about the aspirin is that it isn't 100% effective. Like, women still develop preeclampsia. Women have still been in very risky positions, even though they've done everything that the provider has done. And then there are women who never developed preeclampsia, and they weren't really at risk, but they were on it anyways, and they were on this medication. And so it's like, okay, so then, like, do you really, did you really need to be on it? So it was just like, I felt like I was in a what is it called? At a crossroads. And I'm like, if I go left, then I take this route. If I go right, I take this route. But I won't know where I'll end up. The biggest thing that was concerning to me was whatever decision I make will affect baby girl. And what if I make the wrong decision? Before I didn't have to think about anybody but myself. And now if I make the wrong decision, this could affect her. And so, after, much thought and prayer and further consultation from close, family and friends that we really value their input and their their advice, I started to gather, a decision with Joel, of course. And one of the biggest, parts to highlight in this journey was that I think I grew up a little bit in the process, because there was a part of me that was like, I'm going to let one of the parties down, because I had two groups of people that were like, no, option A is the way for you. And option B, no, option B is the way for you, And so then it was like, okay, if I go with option A, option B is going to be like, I wouldn't have done that. Or if I go with option B, then option A would have been like, well, I wouldn't have done that. And so there came a point where I had to be like, you know what? I need to do what's best for me and the baby and our family and my health. And I am going to ruffle feathers. I am going to, I'm going to do something that one of the parties is going to be one of the parties that, again, this isn't just like some website, this isn't some blog, this isn't some Instagram post, this isn't some, superficial type information that I'm gathering. This is from people that I value what they say. I value their input. I value what they think about my decisions, and I'm not saying that I can't make decisions for myself unless it's approved by, these group of people. But we all have those people in our lives where if they were to say, you went with that decision, it would make you second guess. It would make you think like, oh, did I make the wrong decision? Because these are the people whose opinions matter in your life, right? So I was like, okay, whatever I do, I'm gonna go ahead and not disappoint, not upset, but I'm not gonna go with one of the options that was recommended to me from one of the groups that I very value, right? I was also thankful that I had two perspectives. I didn't have just one voice saying, this is the way to go and do this above, everything, and, it will work for you. So, after all of that, I came to this decision and I realized, well, what is true to me? Well, what is true to me is that I am a woman who has suffered 2 miscarriages. I am a woman who is overweight. I am a woman who, while I don't think, I don't necessarily take care of myself, I understand that I'm at risk. So I started to think about what is true for me, Kezia, and what are some things that I need to consider as an individual. And I considered my history, I considered my pregnancy history, and I realized, okay, as much as I have faith in the Lord and I am praying for this baby girl and I am trusting that everything is going to turn out fine, if you were to ask me, would you want to go through another miscarriage? Of course, I would say no. Heck no. I would never want to go through that again. So, because I know what it feels like to fall in love with the life that is growing inside of you and understanding the difficulty of accepting when that just doesn't, when that's unsuccessful, having to relay that to other people and say, oh yeah, by the way, this happened. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. It's a very difficult and beyond, breaking and humbling and just, it's such a difficult process. So then I thought about that. And I thought about if I could go back and someone were to have told me, if you did this, you could have prevented the miscarriage, wouldn't you have done it? And when that question came into my head, I realized I would have done everything. I would have done anything to prevent losing, those 2 lives that were growing inside of me. So when I started to think in that way, I started to realize, well, do I believe in some conspiracies out there about the, medical world and about the pharmaceutical industry and even about certain medical professionals? I do. But this is about me and baby girl right now. And I know that she's growing and her heartbeat is strong and she's a girl and I love her already. So if I have this awareness for me, then I think I am going to go ahead and take the medication. And that's not normally what I would say that's not a normal response for me, because mind you, I am the kind of person that I do think, for a lot of things I'm like, okay, that's not really something that works for me, I'll go ahead and go against the grain and I'll do my own thing, blah blah blah. But with this, it was this isn't about me anymore. Now I have to think about her. So even though this is probably not the norm for Kez, it's a sacrifice, or it's a change in me that I'm willing to take, because now it's also about her. And so with that, you know, I started to think about it, and I started talking to Joel, and I was like, you know what, babe, you know, what if I do both? What if I go ahead and I just try to change my diet and try to, you know, increase my physical, you know, exercise, and I don't, you know, surpass gaining more than 10 pounds to my whole pregnancy, but I also start taking the aspirin. And when I started to think in those terms, I felt a real peace. I felt a peace because I was like, I'm gonna do everything in my power to help my daughter. Now, I know that some of you guys watching this video were paying attention to where I was going and where I was headed, and you're probably thinking, is she really gonna talk about how she's now taking aspirin and she's changing her diet and she's, you know, trying to do things to better her health and, you know, all of that, and put her in the best standing decision? But was I just, you know, making it up, or did this girl just go to McDonald's? Yes, this girl did go to McDonald's. And so the thing about it is, I came to a point of, you know, I'm going to do everything in my power to change my diet, and I have. Now, am I excluding myself completely during this pregnancy? No, I am not. As a matter of fact, in about a couple of days, we're gonna go to Hawaii, and I know for a fact there's gonna go ahead and be food options there that I've been avoiding, and I'm probably going to go ahead and be open to trying, and, you know, whatever. For me, I really have maintained a regimen. I've only had salmon, chicken breast, and turkey. And I've been having all the veggies you could think about, you know, just everything. And I'll even post a few pictures. But I have been, you know, taking this seriously. But I also, again, going back to what is true to Kez. Am I an extremist? No, I'm not. And I realized that I don't have the capacity to go on one extreme or the other. Like, even if I went in the diet route, I'm not gonna be 100%, no, I'm never gonna have this and I'm never gonna try that, because, you know, I just can't. And then I'm also not gonna be on the other extreme either, where it's like, I'm just gonna have whatever I'm gonna have, and I'm already on aspirin, and that's canceling that out, and I'm not gonna make any dietary restrictions. No, I came to the conclusion of, I'm gonna do what I can to help my case. And not only am I going to help my case, but I'm also going to take the aspirin. And then on top of that, when I get a craving, because I've finally started to feel better and I'm not throwing up all the time and I'm not having the same nausea as I'm also having, like the first 3 months, it was just so hard to keep food down, that right now where I'm like, my goodness, like I've been so good for the last 10 days and today I have a craving for this. It's like, I'm gonna have it and I'm not gonna feel guilty about it, and I'm not gonna worry about baby girl. I'm gonna put her, you know, in God's hands, and I'm gonna go ahead and say, you know what, I'm gonna have McDonald's. So basically, I am having McDonald's. I haven't had McDonald's in so long, and so a part of this vlog is also me enjoying my first McDonald's breakfast. I am more of a McDonald's breakfast fan than I am of like other McDonald's items, although I am a huge fan of the fillet of fish. So I know by eating this meal, it's high in calories, it's high in fat, it's high in everything. So I know for all of you guys watching, you're probably like, girl, why are you doing that? This is what works for Kez. So I got an orange juice. And I'll take one for Joel. Oh, I guess I got the wrong one. I got, I guess, 2 sausage egg McMuffin. I'm gonna have 1, and I'm gonna have my hash brown. So I'm gonna show you guys something that I've been doing, not just because I'm pregnant, but I've been doing it since as long as I can remember because of my mom. So here's what you do. You're gonna go ahead and put the hash brown inside the sausage egg McMuffin. And then you're gonna get some strawberry jelly. Yeah, strawberry jelly. And then you're gonna take a bite. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for this food. let me enjoy it. Let me be able to keep it down, hopefully. And I pray that you are with me throughout the day, that you take care of baby girl. In Jesus' name I pray. My goodness, oh my god, guys, I've had so much salmon lately. I've had so much quinoa. I've had so much kale. My goodness, I don't think I could ever be vegan or even vegetarian. And then after you do one jelly round, you do one ketchup round. This is amazing. I'm having a phenomenal Saturday. But that was my journey. And again, I understand that through this process, even when I post, you know, not everybody's gonna agree with it. People are gonna call me, you know, not the best mom for having McDonald's. Some people are gonna say, you're not the best mom because you are on aspirin. You're not the best mom because you didn't try, you know, other methods or whatever. Or maybe some people are going to say you are not the best mom because you are on aspirin, you know, and you're not doing everything in your power to avoid being on medication. And what are the risks there? At the end of the day, in this world, you're not going to make everybody happy. And I think part of me, part of what I'm learning in this process, part of growing up, and is that I think what I'm learning through this process is as I grow as a woman, as I grow as a mother, there's a lot of things that I'm not going to do that everybody does. Or there might be certain things that maybe I might be like, okay, I understand the hype. I understand why people are doing it. And it might also work for me. And so that's my little vlog. I will be showing you guys what my nails look like and how my eyebrows change after this. But thank you for watching my vlog on my journey with preeclampsia, and more preeclampsia prevention because I don't have this condition, but more what I chose to do to prevent it, and the journey and the wrestling that I went through to get to that decision. Currently at 16 weeks, my symptoms are now extreme fatigue, leg cramps, and every now and then some mild dizziness. But I'm realizing that it's because I was still laying on my back. So last night was actually the first night I stopped sleeping on my back, and now only on the side, and it was really, really hard. I tossed and turned pretty much all night. Joel was like done with me, and I was just like, I'm so sorry, babe. I could not find a comfortable spot, and then I'm waking up every hour to go pee, and sometimes I'm like, I didn't drink this much water. Like, why am I still peeing? And so, yeah, so thank you for joining me on my vlog, and I will show you guys some other stuff, but enjoy.
Feeling like Jonah, brother turn low now, how we gonna find our way? Feeling like Moses, man, the Lord chose us, now we gotta find our way. Feeling like David, man, I done gave him all, I gotta find my way. You never feel me.
So we are done with our self-care day. I went to go get my nails done, which I had to do a pep talk for myself before I began because I hadn't gotten my nails in a really long time. Every time I went to the nail salon, I would always struggle to advocate for myself. I would always never tell them when I didn't like something, or when something was hurting me, or when I didn't, like the color or the length or whatever. I would just, I just had a really hard time speaking up. And this time around, since it had been so long, I told myself no, I am starting to enter into a new era of Kez, and this version of me is not someone that's just gonna be so easily back down where, you know, she's just gonna take it, you know, and not, you know, like, especially if you're paying. So I went to a new place, and I told her, you know, I don't like the length, can you make it shorter? I told her, you know, I don't like the color, is there any way that you could try a different white, maybe like a creamy or an off-white? And she listened, and in everything that I basically, you know, requested, she accommodated. I did think the price was really high. It was $85, but I'm told that that's kind of like the standard now. Well, roughly like $65 to $75 depending on what you're asking, and that extra charge was mainly the location that I chose, because I chose a shopping center that's very like well known and high end. So obviously, like, the demographic there, if you're gonna get your nails done there, it makes sense that the price is gonna be high. But other than that, I was very happy with my nails. I like them. I do think they are not necessarily worth the price, but it is what it is. And then I went to go get my eyebrows done. My hair is just doing its own thing right now. But I went to go get my eyebrows done, and I feel like I'm pretty again because they're normal and calm. And now I'm gonna head home and get started on some cleaning. So thank you guys for joining me on my vlog today, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.
Feeling like Moses, man, the Lord chose us. Now we gotta find our way. Feeling like David,
So this video is a pump me up video. This is a video where I tell myself, yes, today is the day where you gain and grow a backbone, and you tell that nail lady what you want, and what you want better be what you pay for and what you tip for, because you're not the same average Joe that you were a year ago when you got your nails done. Now you are a growing mother, and you have to channel that assertive spirit that you would have had if someone yells at your kid to the nail lady and say, no, I don't like it. Yes, you're burning me. Yes, it's crooked. No, I don't like that color. And channel that and tip according to the actual satisfaction I feel about the service. And today I will not cry in my car, and I will not walk away feeling guilty, and I will not tell people about how miserable I felt because I just couldn't speak up. So I'm sending this video as a video diary of my evolution, but also to ask for prayers that I actually fulfill what I am recording, and that I will show you guys something that I'm like, I love it. I absolutely love it, and I'm happy with it, and I paid accordingly. So